Well, welcome back to No Strings Attached Street Ministry. Today is we're going to go on and continue on with our How to Live in a Van series. I believe this is episode 4, which we're going to talk about. It's all about electric. Living in a van. There's a lot of people that really get twisted up all about this electric. Just remember, guys, in electricity you can go as cheap as you want or as expensive as you want. I mean, you don't have to have a whole lot unless you're using a whole lot of power. So let's dive into it and give you a little bit of an idea of what you pretty much need to do what you need to do and to live comfortable. If you're the type of person that follows, that travels and follows the weather, then you're going to be a whole lot better off, a whole lot easier on the power consumption that you have. Now, if you live down in, let's say, Florida, or down in like Arizona and places like that where it's extremely hot, or Texas, then to be down there in the middle of the summertime, trust me, it's going to get very miserable if you don't try to at least accommodate your temperature control inside your van. So that's where you have to look at where you're going to play at, where you're going to be at most of the time, how your travels are, where your stationary spots are at. And this all will make a big difference on what you need to do and how you need to prep your van, for the electricity use. What I would suggest to do is, when you're first starting out, buy you a small inverter like mine, which is this little guy. I swear by it. I mean, honestly, this is enough to charge your phones up continuously. You never have a problem with trying to keep your phone charged. And you can run this right off your cigarette lighter, right off your house, right off your regular car battery, and it won't really mess it up. I use this thing pretty much 24/7 on my car, and I drive pretty much every day, so my battery in my car is maintained, very well. But I've never really had a problem with messing with the battery. It's got USB ports on it. It's got a 115 volt outlet on it. It can handle up to 150 watt. So it does quite a bit, believe it or not. But let's just talk about the electric systems. What you actually realistically need. Number one, basically the only thing that you really need power for really is lights. To start off with, just a couple lights, and at night. A lot of different options there. You can use these little battery operated puck lights, which does really well. I consider starting off with those, that we don't have to worry about electrical wiring and all that stuff going on. If you want to get even more elaborate, then you can even go, what I use, and I've come to find out to be the best, is, believe it or not, clear LED Christmas lights. And you can put those up with staples or whatever, however you want to hang those, zip ties, whatever you want to do. Run extension cord to it, plug it into your power bar, and voila, you got all the lights that you really need. I mean, it'll light your van up perfectly, because you can get those strings, 25 light bulb at strings, 50 bulb strings, 100 bulb strings, 200 bulb strings, and even at the 200 bulb strings is pulling so little of power you'll never even realize that it's even on. So all I say is go wild with it. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. I use a lot of LEDs, or if you're old school and you want, like the old lamp that's in your house, or the little lamps that clamp on, or any kind of fixture that you want. Remember, you can run those off of an inverter, and you can use LED bulbs in those. and it's still very, very low power. Now you get into fluorescent lighting or incandescent lighting, that's the old style light bulbs. Yeah, now you're going to start really drawing some power down, to light those light bulbs up. They've even got LED spotlights for outside, running bar lights, all LEDs. So you can put a lot of lights on your van, in your van, and around your van to really lighting up and really making a big difference in your lighting situation. And it not drain your batteries. It's so critical that they don't do a lot of damage to your battery system. And that's what you need to look and realize. For house batteries, if you do want to go that expense, you're probably looking at about $149 for like the top, a line Walmart marine battery, which would be more than enough. And if you really want to go really elaborate, get two, and then wire them in in parallel. That would give you 12 volts. Would give you about 250 amp hours or so. So you got plenty of power there, to do what you need to do. With that system, that kind of a system, you're looking at $300 worth of batteries, $100 for your inverter of $1,000, 1,000-watt inverter, and a really good power bar. And you can plug it. I use everything. There's no reason to run a lot of, permanent wiring inside your van. You don't have to. You can just use a power bar as long as it's got a fuse on it. Most of them come with like a 20 amp pop fuse on them. Resettable fuse, and your inverters are all fused inside internally, so shouldn't have any problem with those. I wouldn't recommend. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money on breaker bars and fuses and all that other nonsense. So think of it wisely. I mean, as long as you have a fuse in line to protect the system from shorts, I think that's about all you really need. Now, if you plan on using on that battery system and using a solenoid or something to run off of your alternator to keep it charged, yes, you'll have to put an inline fuse on that. And at that size, I would recommend to find out what your alternator is pulling. So if your car gets as an 85 watt, or 85 amp, alternator, or 100 amp alternator, or 150 amp alternator, or whatever it is, that's the size fuse you need, to put from your battery to your system. And so make sure that's all set up that way. The way that I have 4 of those batteries in my car in a battery bank, but I do an awful lot of power usage, more than you will ever use. I run an air conditioner in my van on battery. I run my singing equipment and all my power supply for all my equipment is online. I use power tools on that system. I do an awful lot, and I draw an awful lot of amperage off of those batteries. So that's why I have such a big battery system. Do I need it? No, but it also gives me the options where I can heat my van with electric heater. That way it's safer. I can cook with induction cooktop. There's so many different things you can use that electricity for if you have it available. So don't, if you want to go that route, yes, you can. You can be a lot safer with electric heating, appliances, your blenders, other things that you can use. But like I said, all these appliances you can run off of just a small extension cord, as long as you get a heavy-duty extension cord to operate those. I would go with at least a number 12, if not a number 10, if you can find it. Always with a 3-prong cord, and that should just about protect you on anything that you would need any kind of protection from. But always go right back to your fused bars, your fused power bar, and with an on-off switch and everything. So you always have a way to turn everything off at once. You have a way to isolate everything. So consider that right there. They've got inverters. Most people can usually get by with around a 1500 watt inverter. The modified sine wave, you don't have to go spend a big bunch of money on a sine wave unless you're running very very temperamental electronics. But honestly, that's what they say. I've ran a lot of things on that, on that modified sine wave, and the only thing it ever actually really gave me any kind of fits, believe it or not, is my air conditioning system alone. Once I went to a pure sine wave, that even cured that. But I mean, I ran all my electronics, my sound equipment. Sound equipment I had a little slight buzz in, but it's nothing that you couldn't live with. I mean, it didn't interfere that bad with it. It was just a real slight hum, on that PA system, that it picked up with the modified sine. So when when I went to the pure sine, that all went away. So that would be about the only thing that I've noticed. Microwave didn't run too awful well on that, but that's also a motor as well. But if you're going to use a microwave, specialized electronic equipment, I'm not talking of electronic equipment like your computer. That is all ran through a power box of its own, and they do pretty well with that. That's just charging a laptop, so it's actually a charger is what's actually running on there. So always think about that and consider that. They've got different personal power power boxes out there, little things you can even put in your pocket. They've got power jump boxes that you can put in your pocket. I get one for a V8. That's what I have from mine. It's a very powerful little box, and it actually does really well. And it jumps my big V8 off perfectly all the time, so I don't ever have a problem with it. Inexpensive. You're looking at about $69 for one of those. I'll try to go to Walmart, and if I can, I'm going to try to edit this one and actually insert that. I'll make a little small clip on that and see if I can insert this. First time I ever tried to do any kind of editing, but I'm going to try. See if I can insert that little clip in there for you. But we'll try to do that, or put it on the beginning or the end of this video. Yeah, the jump starters, they've got the big giant jump starters you can buy. What that bad thing about those, you have to keep them charged up quite often. But yeah, it's got the inverter and the jump starter and everything all in one. They got a new one out called Jackery. You hear a lot of guys talking about those now, which seems to be a nice little unit. I would love to get my hands on one and actually do a test run on them. So, hey Jackery, if you want to sponsor me one, I'd be glad to give it a real good review and actually do maybe a couple videos on that as well. To try to put that in your repertoire. As for shore power, always have a way that you can run an extension cord to your van and hook right into your power bar, run it off of that. That way you can have your shore power hookup, and then you can charge your batteries and charge your bank, everything up with that. Now I have a 100 watt or 100 amp 30 amp, I think it's 100 amp, 30 amp, 6 amp, and a 2 amp charger. It's a speed charger, but it's a digital charger for the AGM batteries. And I'd recommend to get one of those. And I hardwired mine directly into my battery bank, so it's permanently installed in my van. That way, once I plug it in, all I got to do is go over there and turn it on, and it starts instantly charging up my van. And I can charge with that unit through PowerShore, Shore Power, or even I can charge it off of my generator itself. So if I'm running my generator, I can do that as well. On those cold nights where you absolutely have to have heat, or you absolutely have to run your air conditioner, honestly, without all the hassles and things, I find it easier. That's when I run my generator. And I can run my generator for around $4 a day, and I can run it basically 24 hours a day, non-stop. and be just as comfortable on those rainy days and those muggy days and those hot days and those real cold days, and stay just as comfortable in there. And plus, it runs my TV. I mean, it runs the entire van and charges my batteries off my charger all at the same time. Just when I run the generator, that's how much power I have available. And I can I can use anything that I have in my van. I can run all at one time on that generator. I've never had any problems with it. Of course, I don't use the microwave a lot, so I very rarely do I use the microwave. I think it was almost a waste of putting it in, because even just in heating water, I got my little kettles that I can heat water up a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster, believe it or not, than a microwave. So that's just how I feel about it. If I had to do all over, I think I'd not even wasted the money for the microwave. I would rather cook my food anyway. Your generators. Well, yeah, you can get 5,000 watt generators, 10,000 watt generators, 3,500 watt generators. You can even get them all the way down to, I think, 900 watt generators. But honestly, you get what you pay for on a generator. So if you buy quality, you're going to get long-lasting quality. You're going to get most likely digital power, which is definitely a plus. The one that I use is the 2200 watt Ryobi, which is a Home Depot brand. I've had that generator on my truck for 6 years probably, and honestly, it's ran quite often. I mean, quite often. I've got hundreds and hundreds of hours on this generator, and it's had a few little things done to it here and there, but most of the things that were done is because of my fault of not using it. And I had to replace the carburetor and redo some things on there, but it was my fault, especially with the old crappy gas they got out there. Of course, it sat there and it went bad, and it destroyed it clogged up my carburetor. So, but besides that, oil changes and maintenance on it, I do the maintenance and oil changes basically once a month, really close to once a month, and never have a problem with that at all. And that thing has ran continuously. Honestly, it's been a little workhorse. I would swear by them. I've had the Honda. My first one was a Honda, and which was a very good one as well. I'm not going to knock Honda because they are just as good quality, but I did replace it after 3 years. And this one here has been running for about 6 years. Now, it probably was my fault that the Honda went out and went kaput, because I really didn't do the oil changes as often as I did now. So I'm hoping that it was my fault that went out, but it was 3 times as much money too. So, it was quite expensive. So, that's how I looked at it as well. I said, well, I can buy 3 of those, and if I have to replace one once a year, I'm still doing just as good on that one as I am the Honda. So that's how I looked at it. So, and that's still, I mean, if I ran it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just like you would have shore power, I mean, my power bill would still be cheaper than what you would pay for a small apartment somewhere on a standard power system. You figure on a normal apartment that's all electric, your power bill is going to be anywhere from $120 to $160 a month. Well, with my generator, I can literally run it 24 hours a day, and it costs me about $4 a day, which is about $120 a month, I think. So 110 or no, 120. So it's not really that big a deal. Now, most days, honestly, with me being in and out, doing my lifestyle and how I live and how I am, I usually run it about 6 hours a day at the most. And most of that is really just charging the batteries. About the only time I turn it on is usually around dinner time. I'll turn it around, and then that's when I do everything. I'll watch television. I'll turn my air conditioner on and be in comfort. I'll do all my cooking. I'll do everything all at one time. That way I know everything is completely done. Making use of all that power as much as I can. And it runs my cooler. Of course, my cooler is running off my batteries. But my little refrigerator cooler all runs off the batteries. You can get those refrigerator coolers run off of your battery. If you have just the cooler that you're looking at and a couple LED lights, only one battery should do you just fine. Honestly, you buy one of those AGM batteries, and that'll easily satisfy your power needs, and not really have any effect on it at all. Now, if you want to go to solar system, I believe solar system would be worth it. Cost wise, it's not cheap, but for convenience and one time payment of getting the whole system done, yeah, it's definitely worth whatever. Because once you install solar, it's done, it's over with, it's good for 10 years, or better. So you should have no problem with solar system. What I would recommend is I would recommend 100 watts for every 100 watt of battery power that you have. So if you have a battery system like I do of 500 watts, of battery power, I think you should have equally 500 watts of solar system power as well, or close to it. If you have a 100 watt or 150 watt battery, or 150 amp battery, and you could probably get by with just a refrigerator, things like that. You could probably get by with just a regular 100 watt panel. But if you had two batteries, I would get two panels. Two panels is pretty much what is needed or seen in the industry, especially for the van usage. And I hear a lot of people having good success with that. You want to find any more details on performance, you might want to ask one of those, because I do not have solar, so I haven't set that up, and I don't see the need at the moment to do so. But that's just how I look at it. As for lights and everything, like I said, as long as you stay with the LED technology and the batteries and and the lights, you're going to be just fine on your electricity consumption, because you would have to light the world up with LEDs to really make up a big cost of that, to where you'd actually be using a lot of power. But down here in Florida, it sounds like we get a lot of sun, but believe it or not, we got a lot of overcast and a lot of cloudy days. So I'm wondering if solar would even really be that beneficial in the state of Florida. It's hot down here, yeah, it's got some sun, don't get me wrong, but it's not just a clear sunny day. But maybe a different kind of panel would probably be better for me, here, like a amorphous panel, or a modified, or poly, whatever they are, the poly panels. I know each one has their own different use and what they're good for, so make sure you do research on it if you do go with solar. But that's my thoughts about power. Hopefully that'll help you a little bit. But like I said, start out and build it slow and small, and build as you go. There's no reason to blow your whole bank, your whole money savings bank, just because someone says, well, you need to put 2,000 watts of continuous power on your van. You end up spending $5,000-$10,000 on a whole power system. You don't need it. So use and get only what you need. That's my method. And then if you need something else to accommodate your life and make your life a little bit easier, fine, buy it, go for it. But like I said before, buy the best quality you can buy at the time. I'd rather you buy it once and spend a little extra. That way you got quality and it's going to last you, instead of buying cheap and it end up costing you more in the long run, because you end up having to replace it anyway. So consider what I've been talking about on the power, and hopefully that'll help you set your power needs up. Any other advice on power that I think that I haven't make sure you put down in the description or down in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer some of those questions, or to even make another video about those specific needs. Thanks for coming by. Make sure to hit subscribe and like. Give me a thumbs up if it's been helpful. I appreciate you watching the videos. I think I should wrap this one up. So God bless you guys. Have a great day. Thank you for coming by.